So welcome to our webinar today on all things AI to help you in-house, if that's something you're thinking about doing, or if you're an agency wanting to know the latest tips and take from some of our learnings of playing with different AI tools over the last couple of years. So I'm John Redman. I'm the founder of Modo25, which is a digital marketing in-housing business, and we're also the developers of AskBosco, which is a marketing reporting and forecasting and benchmarking AI platform. Dan, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Dan. I'm the director of agency at Modo25. So heading up our agency services, which includes sort of our kind of traditional management of PPC, SEO, sort of all things digital, but also our in-housing offering as well. So recruitment, training, hybrid working between sort of in-house and agency teams, and as per the webinar, kind of getting the most out of having that in-house team.
Great. So first of all, thanks for joining. If you've got any questions as we go through, just fire them into the Q&A or into the chat. We do have Abby, who heads up the webinar support, who can tee up your questions and make sure we answer them live. Hopefully, if we've got time. We do have, Dan and I were worried we didn't have enough content to share, but I think we might have too much. So we were sort of aiming for this to be half an hour with a bit of Q&A, but we should definitely be finished in sort of 40 minutes, I think. So hopefully that's a good use of everybody's time. But first of all, we thought we'd introduce sort of set this scene, set the agenda. So we're going to sort of why are we authorized to talk about this, share some case studies and stories of stuff we've done, and thoughts of other marketing leaders on in-housing, and some of the sort of pros and cons. Then we thought we'd go through and just share some tools. So you're probably going to need your phone with the QR code scanner, because we're sharing a few links as QR codes. We will share the deck and the recording afterwards, so don't worry about having to write everything down, and we'll share any links to any particular tools or scripts, but we've tried to keep it very practical. So we've spent a lot of time looking at a lot of these tools, and these are the ones we think are some of the better ones. There's obviously pros and cons to all of them, so that's what we're going to go through. Again, feel free to dive in with any questions at any point, or if you disagree, happy to have a debate over which is the best content creation tool, or etc. So Modo25, we are a slightly different type of digital marketing agency. As Dan said, we are a full service agency, but we want to help ambitious companies successfully in-house some or all of their digital marketing. We believe this sort of hybrid approach to running your marketing is a much more cost-effective way of doing it, but also actually a better way of doing it. And we'll share how we do that. There is a slightly bigger picture behind our business. So we named the business after a young girl who's at an orphanage in Uganda, in Jinja, and we do a lot of work to support and help 280 children there with their sort of help vulnerable children have a better future in life. And that's a charity that's run by a gentleman called Bosco, and we actually named our AI reporting and benchmarking platform after him, and that's called AskBosco. So I'm super proud of this. One of our big visions when we set the business up is we want to be recognised as a great business to work for. And last year we got recognised as a top 5 agency to work for in the whole of the UK. I think we're the #1 outside of London. So that's fantastic. And I do believe when you're in a service-driven business, it is all about the team that's delivering that service. And we're sort of split into 2 halves, as we've got the performance agency that Dan runs, and then we've got the SaaS business, which is used by both brands and agencies. These are the sorts of things we'll get into. Everything you'd expect really from a normal digital performance marketing agency, but on top of that, we'll do a lot of things around recruitment, helping people set up strategies, planning what sort of team they might need, getting into a lot of data science and measurement type stuff. We've got a team of PhD data scientists and a team of data engineers here who help build the AskBosco platform. So we've got a perfect sort of setup to get into those complex attribution and MMM type projects. Very fortunate to work with some of the world's leading brands, and we help them transfer the knowledge and skills into their in-house team so that we can empower them to take control of their own digital marketing future. So we thought we'd share some of the pros and cons because it's having an agency's got lots of benefits, but it's also got lots of downsides. Having everything in house, it has the same. So we just thought we'd share a few of these. So Dan, do you want to go through some of the different pros and also some of the practicalities of people moving stuff in house, some of it, all of it?
Yeah. So I mean, I think if we're honest, like the first thing that quite often comes up is the cost aspect, and it's always the first thing that we're discussing with prospects who are interested in housing and what it's going to look like. And I think more often than not, there are savings to be made. I think sometimes not to the level that businesses are expecting, but depending on sort of the size of your activity, the number of channels, usually it is a more efficient approach to in-house the team. But I think there's a lot more benefits that go alongside just the cost aspect. Big one kind of being in control of the talent, and in terms of sort of making sure that if you've got a great place to work, that you're retaining your staff and you're working with the same team, you're making sure that they're constantly evolving their knowledge, learning more, and you can scale that team as well. And I suppose the contrary to that and the difficulties with, I think that a lot of people experience with the agency model is accounts getting handed over between different account managers, different execs, not knowing whether the senior person's working on the account or a more junior team, and just having that control over your own team. And it's also that sort of flexibility to grow that team, scale as you need. And I think a big one as well is just having that person as part of your team on a day-to-day basis, knowing the brand, knowing the wider conversations that are happening, all these kind of added values on top of just the cost aspect that that go alongside having someone in house, and also kind of building the value as well. So building the value of the business by being kind of fully in control again, having that control.
Yeah, we did a project recently for a brand where they were looking to sell their business, but all their business came from inbound online marketing, and in the process of sort of getting their business valued, it became a big risk point that they didn't actually control any of their own marketing. So they were basically at the whim of the agency for all their revenue. So one of the things we've been working with them is to build up that knowledge in their business, and actually it's going to secure a valuation, probably a higher valuation for their actual business. So I think that's, if you are 100% reliant on digital marketing for all your revenue, having that ownership in house is a really big value for your overall business. But there are some cons. It's hard to find talent, and there's a lot of people pretending they know what they're doing when they don't out there. So it's hard keeping them up to date, trained, knowing which tools and tech. But hopefully after this, you'll know a bit more about some of the tools and tech that we recommend. And then I suppose the other bits and benefits of an agency is their exposure to Google. Or Facebook, as Modo25 is a Google Premium partner, and we get a lot of exposure to betas and the latest tools and techniques and training. And I suppose the sort of hybrid model that we recommend of having a relationship with a premium agency, but without that premium price tag, hopefully gives you the best of both worlds. And having that sort of broader strategy of what's going on in the market with other clients, again, you may lose some of that if you just go down a rabbit hole in house, but again, you can build a model that works. So first QR code to scan if you want. We've written a white paper on this. We did this with the drum, and this was before ChatGPT and AI sort of exploded. So we're actually going to update this with here's how to in-house your digital marketing and now using AI. So if you want to scan that QR code, you can just download that white paper. We'll also send the links around afterwards. But in there, we talked to clients such as Molson Coors, where they were talking about making sure that it's not just a fad, and that it says it's a solid channel that you're investing money in, month month out, and it's going to be for the foreseeable future. Then that seems like a good area to start an in-house. So that's what Jack was saying. And then Toby at TUI, he was more about, well, what are we doing a lot of, right? So which are the biggest workload volumes? Is that your creative? Is that your PPC, or is that your sort of tracking and analytics? So understanding where you, not just the agency fees, but with the actual volume of work. So what's going to be the implication of moving in-house? And as Dan said, it's not often the saving you're going to get. It also comes from having that beneficial knowledge in the team. It's not just a cost saving. And then Hertz actually in-housed all their performance creative and content because they wanted to have a bit more control and to be able to move at a faster pace. And I think that's the other thing. If you've got teams sat in the office and that are responsible to and accountable to you, you can move a lot quicker than sending some to the agency, then briefing it in, then it's like you can move a lot quicker. So again, there's a QR code for the white paper. Feel free to download that. So we want to get in some practical tools and tips and ideas. So we thought we'd start with content. We were going to do a poll on who's not used ChatGPT, but I'm sure everybody has. And I think that's really what's accelerated everybody's use of this. And initially it was a bit like magic. And is this thing really going to work? But it's not perfect. And I think we can all say it's not going to replace your job. But somebody in the future, maybe who knows how to use AI or ask AI the right questions may. So obviously at the top, there's ChatGPT. There's many different options to ChatGPT now. There's Claude, there's other ones. But we're going to talk about some of these other ones. Copy.io, AI, sorry, and Jasper. They were two of the first ones that would write long form copy based off short descriptions. I'm a big fan of Grammarly. Some people think I'm dyslexic. I just think I type too fast. But Grammarly looks after all my emails and recently has actually started suggesting rewriting actual paragraphs. So not just correcting my spelling, making my paragraphs sound better. And then again, if you're an Office 365 user, Copilot's getting rolled out and is going to sit alongside all the things. And one thing we're starting to see, particularly in the content area as well, is when AI first started sort of 18 months, 2 years ago to become a bit more mainstream, because this by any means isn't new, but to becoming more mainstream in content, creative and copy and things, it was you'd have to go find a specific app. What we think is, and we're seeing already happening, is that it's getting integrated into the existing apps you're already using. And we'll go through a few of those as well. Something a good friend of mine, Carl, shared last week, which I thought was great, is gamma.app. You can literally just type in what you want around a PowerPoint presentation or however, whatever slides you use, and it builds you a slide deck in literally minutes. You can build, we built this by hand, old school. We didn't use AI to build this. So something the team really rate though is this. So we will take this video and we will put it into 85 and it will come out and give us the transcript, then it will give us some key insights, and then we can actually build a short blog or some social media content off the back of it, and that will save our team, our marketing team, a huge amount of time. And we use that a lot. And that's something that we think is super good, super helpful. And there's lots of different tools, but that's one we would recommend. And the other one, again, we even discussed recently, is because it's claiming we can write a book. So you could type in a topic, you can type in some books that it's like, and you can then say in this sort of genre and this and the other, and you press a button and it will go write you a book. So there's a whole separate question around then ownership of all of this content that's generated by AI. We're not going to get into that rabbit warren today, but I do think as if you are an agency, you probably do need to update your T's and C's with your clients to say that you may use AI to generate things. I think you should be front and center with that. But there's still lots of different legal cases around who owns what content. I think it was Sienna Miller this week was complaining. She thought someone had built an AI that was based off her voice. But they're saying it just sounds like her, and how are they going to actually be able to prove it? So that's sort of the content stuff in terms of actual text-based content. In terms of creative, I just thought this, we've been playing a lot with video, and I don't think it's perfect yet, but you can be the judge of this. So we just typed this in. This is a sort of stock video AI person that you can type in. You can choose the person's language, you can choose the person's accent and gender and everything, and then press a button and it just goes. So this is
there. I'm a random AI person who would like to recommend Ask Bosco, the reporting and forecasting AI for online retail.
So that's not bad. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. The other thing we then started playing with was, well, can I actually record myself and train it on my voice and then type her some stuff and it just pretends to be me. So this is actually, and I was speaking at an IMRG, which is the Internet Marketing Retail Group, at a retail AI event recently. And actually the first bits I was talking on this big webinar were actually all recordings, and then I explained that they were recordings and the power of AI. So this is one that we recorded for that.
Thank you, Andy. Not good news for online retail now. Even more offensive when you consider that Google has just announced huge billions of pounds profit from advertising sales. So makes you wonder whether or not we're all just coming to work every day in online retail to make Google more money.
And I never said those words. I just typed them in. I'd pre-recorded myself, recorded my voice, and then you can type in anything. So the scary thing, I think it would be very good for training videos, walkthrough videos, demo videos, those sorts of things in marketing. But is it going to get abused with almost like mail merge video? All right. So are people going to start doing that? Who knows? But it's interesting. And I still think you can sort of spot it. It's not perfect yet, but this is still quite early days. But you can do this in multiple languages.
Merci Andy. Permettez-moi maintenant de partager mes réflexions sur l'IA et sur la manière dont elle peut aider la vente au détail en ligne.
So, and I don't speak very good French. Pidgin C at GCSE was the highlight of my French career, but you could do it in any language. And I think this is then interesting, but also dangerous, because if you position, you can speak a language with, and then you end up actually in a meeting and you can't. I think that's potentially disingenuous. But to get a message out to multiple employees in a massive global business, it may be very helpful.
谢谢你, Andy.
And that was me speaking Chinese and saying thank you to Andy from IMRG. So the thing that does this, and you can have a free go and scan that QR code and have a play with it, is HeyGen. And we looked at a lot of different ones, but we think HeyGen's the best. We're still trying to work out how we integrate this into our marketing and our workflows and our demos, but we think it has a place somewhere, rather than having to sit down somebody every time and get them to record to camera what they want to say about a particular piece of functionality of software. So if we've got the face of our software as Bosco, we could record them once, train it on their voice, and then marketing can just type out what they want them to say. So yeah, highly recommend HeyGen. And then in image AI is, I still think is struggling. But Midjourney seems to be a lot of people's favorite one as just a specific image AI. Adobe's now integrated Firefly, Premiere Pro he's also now integrated some AI. Canva's got its own relationship with ChatGPT, I believe, and is letting you use AI with their image version of ChatGPT. So that's sort of moving on. But I thought I'd share some. These are practical examples of us trying to build ads for clients using AI. So we put in man loading a bin sort of thing. And you can see it initially it looks okay, but actually when you start looking here, these sort of half look like suitcases, and then it's the front of an articulated lorry truck, and there isn't actually any truck on the top right one, any actual bin truck there. It's not quite worked. And then this one, it looks like the truck's wheels are sort of the wrong way round, and there's a sort of whole bin stuck in the back of the truck. This one, the actual cab of the truck, so the front of the truck's here, where the driver sat is a bin. So it's not perfect. It's not there. These wouldn't be good enough to use in an ad, and you wouldn't sign those off as creative. So it takes a lot of time knowing how to get the best out of these AI. And I think a real skill set that people need to start learning and teaching themselves is what prompts to ask the different AIs to get the best outcomes. And that's
really... you touched on it when you were talking about AI taking over people's jobs, and this is it, isn't it? Your job's going to change from, I think this is where it all ties into the in-housing and saving time. You're still going to need the people, you're going to need less manpower, but you do need someone who knows how to get the best out of these tools and verify that everything is achieving the goals that you've got, and it's not going to get flagged up, because if you're running this as a copy on an ad on Meta, for example, you know exactly that the comments are going to get railroaded by people pulling up all the images.
It's historically we'd be going through stock image, or we'd have to buy stuff. That in itself has time. So I think it's about weighing up what's the best use of everybody's time, but also the cost. And also, I'm still fascinated. Well, who owns these images now? Do we own them? Who owns them? So this was another one, attractive one with great skin, and again mixed results. Would we feel comfortable? But again, one prompt, 4 different images straight away. Then bald man holding a pizza, quite nice. This guy's bottom left hand, I'm not sure we'd be but it's not a bad start from. It would take you a while to find an image of a bald person holding a pizza in a stock image that was suitable, but straight away within a couple of seconds you've got creative that you can then use. Right, who can spot what's wrong with this image? So it's got 6 fingers over here. So it looks good, but it's got too many fingers, and we're seeing that a lot. And AI has a lot of hallucinations and gets it wrong. So much as it's fun to play with, and you've got to really learn how to get the best out of it. So I don't think it's good enough yet, but we do have some examples. So this was one, and we're quite proud that we use AI to speed up the process, which means we can focus on actually giving our clients more output. So a happy man playing golf. Top left's a bit weird, just looks a little bit weird, the face. This is all looks like he's broken his leg in the top right. Bottom right, sort of okay, but a little bit too much. Bottom left, maybe might be able to do something with that. And actually, we then integrated that into a Facebook ad, which we then used on Facebook, and it worked. But if we were to try to find a happy person playing golf in stock imagery, we probably would take ages to find the image we want. Or if you can't find the image you want, you're then getting into the costs of actually shooting stuff. And I think that's where the difference is. But there's still merits in having your own creative and your own thing. But this is if you're doing high volumes of online, either display ads or social ads, it can help you speed up your creative process massively. So I was going to put you on the spot, Dan, and go, what was the conversion rate of that ad? But that would be unfair.
I'm not sure I would remember yet.
All right, so over to Dan to talk a bit about SEO.
Yeah, so to begin with, I was just going to pull up a recent article that's been doing the rounds. So I think it was either last week, the week before. Google actually, do you want to click onto the next slide, John? Launched SGE in the US, or now named Google's AI Overview. And there's quite a few things getting pulled up, and a good example here of an issue even with their own AI tools, and a search here for blinker not making a sound, and Google's recommendation to replace the blinker fluid, which I think has probably come about as like an old mechanics joke that's done the rounds and comes up on the internet. And obviously this is the way these tools work. They scan that content and they think they don't see the sarcasm behind some of these suggestions, and they can recommend them as real suggestions. So yeah, I guess you've touched on a few from the creative side, but it's true with content as well, and we've got to be careful about how we're using these tools. The next example I've got just before going through a couple of tools that we use is a piece that The Verge put out a couple of weeks ago. So this was an article that they wrote on the best printer for 2024, and basically they used Google Gemini to write 80% of the article, and the only additions to the article really that they added were some kind of snide comments about how Google was getting less and less useful because of their use of AI, and sort of the way they're kind of forcing people to gamify SEO. But yeah, quite an interesting one that if you think about what they're doing there, sort of the assumption that Google's AI tools and Google's methodology for ranking and SEO are sort of intertwined, perhaps. And yeah, they released this piece of content straight up to I think #1, like position 1 in some cases, position 2 for best printer 2024. And it actually brought up some interesting debates internally, sort of with our team as well, around the fact that Google are also saying that sort of links and that side of things are much less important now for ranking. But actually, would this article, if it was on a website with much lower authority, would it have still got this position? Perhaps not. And I think it does still point to the power of links and sharing alongside getting the content in line with what Google are looking for. I guess, John, sorry.
No, sorry, Dan. I was just saying the other thing when we've been testing that we did a whole separate webinar on SGE, and we'll send the link round for that after this as well, if you're interested in what's going on in SGE, or as now is the sort of AI recommendations. But it's really, normally you invest in SEO and it takes months to work. What we've been doing in testing things and changing things, if you then republish the page, submit it to Google Search Console, you can, it's hours. So you can change what's ranking in hours. So I think this is really interesting as a digital marketer and as a potential growth hacker, which is a sort of term people use, but I think it's also potentially open for abuse. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, and just articles like this just highlight A, the opportunity, but B, the potential for abuse. And there's already talk of Google, when it gets to abuse, will just roll back. But it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in the meantime. And then we've also been sort of tracking what's the impact on traffic, and then ultimately, I suppose, conversions and revenue.
Yeah. And I guess taking this back to sort of what we're talking about in general, like that is that there is a place for using AI to write long form content, and you've given some examples earlier, John, and I do think that there's, yeah, it's certainly a viable technique to save time, and that is one of the things that's going to help with in housing, where you've not necessarily got a team of execs or content writers working alongside your SEO expert, but yeah, it needs to be approached carefully, and I think for everything we're talking about, it's that combination of you having your expert who can oversee this and using the tools available rather than fully relying on AI. Another good example here, so short form content in general, but in this case, generating some FAQ questions to include on a, I think this is, there's a couple of examples there, but air tags. So basically, using ChatGPT and a Google Sheets extension to easily generate a list of FAQs that can be used on a page there. And again, it's these kind of things where if you're looking at a single product, that's an easy piece of work for an account manager to knock out in sort of 20 minutes. But if you're talking about wanting to roll this out across hundreds, thousands of products, that's where sort of you usually uses manpower, and again, agencies are more likely to have that, whereas in-house you typically would have a smaller team. And again, it's that time-saving element that this goes from a task of writing all this out to actually just reviewing the output and making sure that it's sensible, really. And then a really similar one. So Screaming Frog have now got a ChatGPT extension, and this can be used for generating meta titles, descriptions, title tags. So again, sort of we would err on the side of caution, and I think Screaming Frog themselves say meta descriptions are one which potentially you could use this for the basis of it, but really needs that manual overview. But for things like your page titles, H tags, it's a huge time save again if you're talking about doing this across hundreds or thousands of pages. Versus that manual approach of just going through it all yourself. And then I guess, just a little bit of a breakdown, I suppose, in terms of how we see it and how these two things work together. And really it is those tasks that need doing in bulk, where I think the biggest use of AI is short form content, title tags, H tags, the sort of structured data. Obviously talked about some tools that help with those, but things that are quite repetitive, time-consuming tasks, whereas rather than having a team of execs working all of those, you can have your expert overseeing it, but ultimately you still need that person in-house to oversee your overall strategy, understand your brand, make sure they're reviewing this content, they know what's suitable, they know what it's not, and ultimately everything is aligned with the goals that you're trying to achieve. Similar approach for PPC. So I guess thinking about sort of paid search and paid social in particular here. So I'm sure this is one that a lot of people are already using. Most people are already using, but I didn't want to just look at the tools that are kind of additional tools to add to your arsenal, but kind of position this also of how things have changed over the years. So back when I started as a PPC exec 12 years ago,
it's longer than that, Dan. It must be longer than that.
I've probably been saying 12 years for a good few years now. But we had teams of execs, myself included, working on updating individual keyword bids, hundreds of hours spent keyword cleaning, adding negative keywords, very granular targeting, building out thousands of keywords. And for overall, I'd say for better, and there are some like downsides to some of it and the black box nature of some of these tools. But overall, there's been a big shift over the last, I was going to say the last 10 years, but probably the last sort of 5 years in particular, of where like your PPC team's time is spent. And it used to be that probably 80% of time was spent by more junior members of the team with these very time-consuming tasks, and that other 20% was your strategist who has a lot of experience and understands what they need to do. Whereas now, actually, a lot of that more manual labor side of things can be done with tools like smart bidding, some of the other tools we'll talk about, which can leave you sort of planning on in-housing to get a single expert or a couple of experts, depending on the size of the accounts you're running, the size of the team that you're building, who, yes, you can utilize their knowledge and they can utilize these tools to get the most out of the accounts. Then a couple of others. So this is one that I think was just announced, Google Marketing Live earlier this week. So again, sort of Google are obviously continuing to develop these. PMax is now a huge part of Google Search. There's a tool that's been built as part of Google Ads now to help you generate content on bulk. So again, it's going to have some of the same kind of warnings that come alongside some of the other kind of concept creative tools that John's just gone through there. But again, it's these tools that this is a job that you would probably not have got your PPC guy to do 5 years ago. You would have got well, even a year ago, you would have got a designer to throw something together, or even someone putting something together in Canvas. But again, that's gone from a job of someone creating this to a few clicks within the platform itself to get a suitable outcome. And then just on the next side, similarly, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think it just highlights that whole thing we're talking about, which is the main platforms you're already using are going to integrate more and more AI functionality to speed up your workflow, improve your system. So, and it's then understanding, well, how best to get to sort of grips with that and use them.
Yeah, and I won't spend too long on this just with time in mind, but same kind of stuff on Meta. So both creative and content optimization now built in the platform, and that's alongside what they've had for some time in terms of sort of your Advantage Plus campaigns and expanded audience targeting to add on top of like the manual approach to that.
And we've done testing in the past, didn't we? Like product shots sat on a white background versus being in a situational background, and people would have to go away and shoot. We were doing like with shoes, weren't we? A shoe on its own versus on someone's foot in a background, and you can see there with the handbag, they're putting it on a table or using AI.
Yeah. And then just a couple again. So looking at the Sheet GPT extension here. So big one, a hugely time-consuming job if done manually, optimizing merchant center feeds. So we partner with Productcaster for actual feed optimization and CSS. But actually, in terms of, well, so a lot of this can be done with rules within a tool like Productcaster. Actually, things like your product titles, your product descriptions, sometimes that it's not suitable just to build those from a set of rules. Videos are a bit low quality there, so we can update that when we send it around. But basically here we've got like some product descriptions, all of which start with, there's loads of HTML in there. There's words in capital letters. There's sort of some generic information to the site. And here we're just asking ChatGPT to rewrite it, make it suitable for a description for a Google Merchant Center feed. And they're taking out things like description, true to fit, fits to size, those sorts of things that aren't useful for actual product descriptions. And likewise on the next one, and again, so is this focus on more short format copy rather than sort of your long content where it's very easy to get stuff out of bulk, but just pulling sitemap for a client here, stick the whole sitemap in Google Sheets, and then ask Google to ask ChatGPT to generate headlines and descriptions for all of these. But again, just as a word of warning, like these need to be reviewed because ChatGPT can but has a reluctance, it seems, to actually access pages at times. And it looks like for some of these that we spot check, most of the time it seems to be accessing the page and pulling relevant information. So it knows that what the price range is on particular pages, what the product range is. But then when we asked it what was the free delivery threshold on this page, saying £50 versus the £70 that it was. So again, it just does need that manual element on top of it.
Yeah.
And then another partner of ours, Lunio. So this is all about stopping bot traffic. I guess it's AI to fight AI in some cases, but bots, spam clicks, things like that. And we're seeing really good savings on pretty much every client that we've run a trial on. We've ended up rolling out fully for Lunio. And again, it's one of those where Google say that this is something that they do in the background, but obviously not in their interest to be refunding clicks as frequently as you might like. So yeah, really powerful tool using AI to reduce wasted spend on spam traffic.
Yeah, and we've seen clients then being able to reinvest that budget to then grow sales. So it's not only, most people use it as an opportunity to keep spending the same, but reduce the wastage and increase sales. So it's a real no-brainer tool.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so in terms of sort of the breakdown between what we rely on AI for versus the experts, like the AI, we can get copy, we can get personalization out of it. And yeah, in terms of bidding and audience targeting, absolutely. But it's knowing the constraints to set and the overall strategy to get the best out of those features. So which bid strategies right now do we have enough data for? Using your PPC team to help understand what's the lifetime value of a customer and what should be our target sort of customer acquisition cost off the back of that data analysis and sort of laying out tests as well. That sort of strategy and control you're not going to get from AI.
Yeah.
Then really quickly, just some tools that we use from CRO point of view. So Microsoft Clarity being the first one. Microsoft Clarity itself has been around for a long time. And obviously similar tools with like session recordings, a really big job going through session recordings. Obviously you get heat maps, but the session recordings themselves, quite a time consuming job to run through. Yeah, Copilot is now part of Microsoft Clarity. So you can select all or select a subset of your recordings and ask Copilot to summarize them. So yeah, really powerful tool to help you sort of get 3 steps ahead to understand where you need to start focusing your time. And there's a bit of a video there that we can that you can play when we send it over as well, just showing how that works and highlighting where on the page there's a particular pain point, which then your expert can go in and analyze. And okay, well, what tests do we need to run? What actions do we need to take to remove that pain point?
Yeah, years ago, this was like a massive project with using loads of super expensive, clever people. And now a relatively untrained person can identify the problem and then use the highly skilled person in the real focused area and save time and money.
Yeah. And then, yeah, dynamic content. So in this example, this is DualML, and this is framed as customers also viewed, but this is actually AI driven in this case, in a lot of cases. So where you don't have enough customers also viewing particular products to generate that. It's fully AI, although in a lot of cases, a combination of AI and previous data. But yeah, this particular example, when we rolled this out, 5% increase in conversion rate. So it's a huge improvements, and that's 5% that over the course of sort of conversion rate testing might take months to run tests to contribute that. And that use of AI to take that, ingest that data and output. Yeah, this would be, if it was done manually, obviously like a big data science project, but yeah, hugely beneficial to improve conversion rate. And then just the final one, and I think you had this in one of yours as well, John. I don't know if you want to just click play on the video of this one, but yeah, so this is again like a wireframing tool for CRO. So I think that'll work. It's in around. I'm not sure why it's not working. But yeah, so basically this can do everything from, you can take a photo of a sketch on a notepad that you've got, upload it, and it'll design a wireframe from that, a basic website landing page. So again, huge time saving from things where you would need, even if you've got an in-house conversion rate expert, you might be getting an external designer or someone involved in that sort of thing. So yeah, really big on saving time. And then yeah, just to summarize again, so yeah, AI, kind of that machine learning recommendations, dynamic content, identifying pain points, and sort of summarizing sort of wider pieces of data, so things like the video. But yeah, still needing the expert to dig into that. You test ideation, getting that balance between user experience and design, I think, is one that AI is potentially never going to get there. There's always going to be the design element and the branding element that you need to consider alongside your CRO approach, and also things just like unique sites. So how to deal with really high value products, for example. Quite often, like the AI tools don't have enough data to work with that.
Yeah. Right, so reporting, as we talked about, mine and Dan's background, agencies for a long time. Well, most agencies have a little industry in reporting, and that's both, every report's different and complicated, but actually 90% of the content is virtually the same. So we wanted to try and help people solve that, both for agencies and for brands. So we built Ask Bosco. I set the business up with the founder of Skyscanner, who's obviously come from a huge sort of data science background. We're not going to do a demo of Ask Bosco. If you want a demo, we can arrange that later. But basically what we do is we connect all your data into one place. So similar to other tools like this would be, say, a funnel.io or a Supermetrics, and that would help you connect your data, but then you need another data visualization tool, so maybe like a Looker Studio or a Tableau or Power BI, and then you can get your dashboards. But then what we do, as well as giving you the ability to build your own dashboards, like a Tableau or Looker Studio, but we also have an AI element in there, so you can just, if the big boss goes, what's our best performing channel on Facebook or best selling product, you can just type that in as a natural language search and press go, and you'll be able to see the graph you need or the data you need. And then you can start building your own dashboards for your own weekly reports, monthly reports and everything, rather than having to take the dashboards that are either there or that were built by the data analysts. You can just build your own on the fly. So we provide that as a software company to 160 retailers globally, and many agencies are now using it to help save them times on reporting. And there's Dan in the Leeds office looking very happy. Yeah, so if you want a demo of that, you can just scan that QR code or have a look at askbosco.io, but we're not going to do a big thing about that. But that has saved agencies. We had one agency, in terms of their in-house reporting, it was saving them 4 or 5 hours a week per account in terms of reporting, collation, distribution, and forecasting. So it's a significant amount of time saved. So that's pretty much all. We've got a couple of questions. Hang on, before we let's just go back to that one. All right, okay, so someone was asking about how can you get stakeholders to agree to buying more tools. I suppose that's quite an interesting one. The other one we see a lot of is people changing their workflow, and they're just used to doing what they've always done because that's what they've always done, or they built the specific spreadsheet and script that does whatever they're doing, and they're quite personal to that. So one thing we did as an agency, actually, and I don't know if this would work for the people listening, we actually incentivized everybody as almost like an AI adoption competition, and they got everybody to submit an entry, and there's a prize, a monetary prize for the people who are using AI to improve their workflow, speed up what they were doing, because we were very pro it. But I don't know, Dan, how would you suggest getting people to agree to buy more tools? Is it just about...
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's I guess there's a mix, but what I would say is like quite a lot of the tools that well, a number of the tools we've recommended, there are things like trial periods. So like Lunio is a great example of we can run for 30 days and we can get a breakdown of how many clicks were blocked off the back of that activity and what would be the cost of those clicks. And I'm sure kind of stakeholders would be very keen to invest in something like that, where there's a very clear cost savings versus cost of the platform. Some are a little bit less straightforward, I suppose, but for things like Productcaster, so like feed optimization and CSS, we've run distinct tests before where yeah, we've optimized a portion of the feed, or we've launched CSS for a specific period, and done some analysis into what the cost saving or improvement in revenue has been off the back of that. And again, I think that's like the perfect example of that combination of like having an expert in the team who knows how to do that analysis and present back, this is what we've achieved or what we've saved, versus using AI and the tool itself to get that saving.
And I
But then,
also,
yeah, I
oh,
guess
sorry.
for a lot of things, it's just contextualizing the time saved and putting that in a monetary value as well.
One thing we did with one agency, they're actually just finished doing almost like a time and motion study to actually build the business case to do it. I know that sounds a bit belt and braces, but it's yeah, people are only going to invest in new tech and new tools if it is genuinely going to improve things and make things better, but also potentially make people happier. And like, how do you measure that? They're going to be happier in their work. So, but I also, most of them are on a monthly rolling contract. Most of them are a small amount of money because they're all software SaaS based. So I would recommend just testing a couple of different ones. We'll send the links around, and I think all of them have some sort of free trial period. So if you, and again, it's one of those things, if you don't find yourself using it, it's not worth having the paid one, is it? So, right, well, we're nearly done. So I'm actually doing a similar thing to this in face-to-face though, in London at a fancy private members club, if anybody wants, and they're putting on some free food and drink. So if anybody wants to come and ask questions, I'm going to be on the stage with a couple of other AI marketing specialists, and we're going to be talking more, again, sharing more examples, talking more about the commercial impact of all this sort of stuff, and sharing again some more practical examples. That's in central London a week on Monday in the evening. So again, we'll share the link, or you can scan that QR code if you want to register for a free ticket, and come and see sort of more interactive stuff face to face. Always better network with other people in the marketing industry who've got similar challenges to you. And again, there's a link for the download, for the in-housing report. And I'd just like to say thank you for listening. Thank you for joining in. Oh, we've got one more question. Oh, just a few thank yous. So, and then Abby telling me not to cut the stream off too soon. Yeah, so thank you very much for joining. We'll send everything round, and hopefully you found that beneficial and useful.
Thank you.